So you're about to buy a brand new MacBook. Well, over the years I've bought a number of MacBooks and I've definitely made a number of mistakes. And in this video I'm going to take you through 7 buying mistakes that you can avoid when getting your next MacBook. Let's get right into it. First and foremost is not considering your future needs. Now, what I mean by that is just going ahead and buying a base model MacBook because you need a laptop and it's a Mac and it's going to do you for years, and that's great. Number one, you're not considering your needs. What do you need the laptop for? Are you a heavy user of kind of your laptop in general, or does your work require something that needs a little bit more power? Are you going to want to keep this for a number of years into the future, or are you happy to kind of use it as a throwaway bit of technology and kind of upgrade every 2 years or so? Because what tends to happen is people will get a laptop, maybe a base model for example, and as they go on in the years of their life, they'll either increase their workload, start working on something new. Maybe you start a YouTube channel, maybe you start doing graphic design, you start doing websites, whatever it may be, and next thing you've bought a base model that can't actually do anything. So you have to end up kind of making or selling that laptop and probably taking a loss on it, and then going out and spending a load more on a brand new laptop that actually will be fit for your needs. I actually did that with my first MacBook. It was a MacBook Pro. If you've been a kind of a long time member of the channel, you'll have heard me tell this story before. Basically, I was starting my computing degree and I needed a laptop. Had a very limited budget, which is a different thing entirely. And I could really only go for the base model MacBook Pro. I couldn't go for any additional RAM. I couldn't go for any additional storage. I just didn't have the budget. And it kind of did catch me out in a few years throughout my degree as I started to do more complex coding, and it demanded more of the aging laptop. Had I kind of saved more money and maybe spent a bit more on the RAM or the storage, I probably wouldn't have had that problem. But also I wouldn't be able to give this advice, so it's kind of worked out in the end. Now with that said, we'll move on to number 2, which is buying the wrong amount of RAM. As I said, it's very easy just to go with the base model. It looks the same as the, fully spec'd one, and yeah, you are right, it does look the same. However, buying the wrong amount of RAM for your use case is going to be detrimental to your experience using the laptop. You will get over the kind of honeymoon period of, oh look, I have a lovely shiny new laptop, it looks amazing, it's the latest thing. Apple are going to bring out a new one next year, or maybe the year after, depending on whenever you buy it in the cycle. And trust me, the looks and all that stuff will fade eventually. However, what you will appreciate and what you will notice as the years go on is the performance of the laptop. If you start noticing it slowing down and kind of getting worse and worse, you're not even going to want to use it. And remember, you're buying this as kind of a tool to help get your work done, or maybe it's just a thing for watching Netflix or kind of carrying around the house. That's fine too. But you really need to consider how much RAM you're going to use. So if you haven't looked at my video on 8GB versus 16GB, check it out up here. But it goes beyond that. 8 and 16 are relatively small numbers by a modern comparison. So, Apple go the whole way up to crazy amounts of RAM. Do you need all that? I don't know. But it's really something you should consider. Are you a software developer? Are you a graphic designer? Whatever you are, you need to look into how much RAM you need. And if I can help you below, please comment down below and I'll try my best to help. The next thing, and probably one of the biggest problems I see and comments and kind of throughout all my videos, is people buying more storage than RAM. Getting more storage than RAM is just a bad idea for a number of reasons. If you have a base model amount of RAM, so let's say 8GB, and you decide to upgrade the storage, it's a waste of money because your laptop will be slowing down, but you'll still have the added bonus of extra storage. It doesn't make any sense. You want to spend your money, all your money, as much as you can really, on increasing the amount of RAM. And I know as you go up the different levels of MacBook, you kind of get more RAM as standard, which is fine, but you really need to prioritize RAM over storage. You can always add on a dongle or some sort of external storage device. I know a lot of people don't like living that life, but trust me, your future self will thank you for buying more RAM than storage. Next up, and maybe a bit of an unsurprising one for number 4, is focusing on the price. Now, what do I mean by that? So it's very easy to kind of get stuck in the Apple pricing ladder and think that more expensive equals better. That is not always the case. And sure, if you're talking about just a pure performance point of view, it may be the case if you go for the top end Pro model. But I'm coming at this from more of a lifestyle point of view. So I actually have a MacBook Air, M3 MacBook Air and an M3 MacBook Pro now from work, which I've only got in the last kind of few weeks. It's made me realize how much I love my Air even more, because from a lifestyle point of view, the MacBook Pro is a beast. It's super heavy. It's obviously super powerful, but it's really, really heavy. And trust me, you notice that in the back of your backpack or carrying it around. And for a lot of people, I'd say that's not something you want. Personally, obviously I make these YouTube videos, I'm recording this all connected into my MacBook Air, which is right in front of me here, and I can literally take this with me wherever I go. It's super light, unlike the MacBook Pro, which is considerably heavier. You can also take both of them, don't get me wrong, you can take both of them wherever you want, but the fact that this is just, the MacBook Air is super light, fits my life a lot better. I don't need a bag to carry it around. I can easily hold it with one hand and kind of type with the other, or just, you can hold it in crazy ways essentially. So I just think about that before you go crazy buying the latest and greatest MacBook Pro. And look, you don't need to go and overspend buying like 48 gigs of RAM or 32 gigs of RAM, whatever, when all you do is watch Netflix and YouTube. Like, there is a point where you want to future-proof the laptop, but it'll get to a point where there's diminishing returns on what you're actually paying for. Because remember, Apple are constantly iterating and improving their devices as the years go on. And for that extra money, just save it in the bank and you can buy an upgraded Apple device in like 4 years time whenever your MacBook starts to give in. So keep that in mind and don't always get fixated on the price. Now, number 5 is kind of a surprising one for a lot of people who go for some of the newer Macs, especially the MacBook Air with the limited I/O that's kind of on the side with only USB-C ports or Thunderbolt ports. And that is not considering the peripheral needs that you have. So if you're like me, you originally came from Windows, and all of your devices, all of your keyboards, everything would have worked with a Windows device, either USB-A or Bluetooth or whatever it may be. Now, what you will notice is going to the Mac OS side of things, you'll need USB-C. I know the world is moving towards USB-C, but it's something that's not really called out a lot. If you've been a solid Windows user for years and you're switching to Mac, a lot of your peripherals will have to be either updated or you'll have to buy a dongle of some sort to click in with your Mac. So keep that in mind, and especially your monitor. If you're buying a new monitor and you want the best performance out of it, the best hertz, the best refresh rate, everything like that, you may want to consider one that's USB-C, especially if you're going to dock your laptop. That said, a lot of the devices now are Bluetooth and you can kind of get around it using that. But I know for me personally, I had to go out and buy a lot of Bluetooth devices because I wanted that kind of clean look across my desk. And it definitely is kind of like a hidden cost that you wouldn't necessarily think about. Number 6, I think, is probably one of the most important here on this list. And that is not just watching the reviews, even like this one, and actually getting your hands on. This is the thing you need to avoid, because it's very easy to listen to someone on YouTube and just say, right, I've made my mind up, let's go with this one. However, if you haven't seen it in person, if you haven't kind of felt the weight of it, felt the size of it, is this kind of what you want, you may be disappointed and it may result in a mistake being made. And the best example I can give you of this is the MacBook Air 15-inch. Now, it kind of links back as well to the one where I said that, you know, more expensive doesn't equal better. So I was originally going to go with the M3 MacBook Air 15-inch, but the problem there is when I seen it in person, it's not like the MacBook Pro that has kind of speaker grills down the side and it looks like a nice design. For me, the MacBook Air 15-inch has like massive borders either side of the keyboard that just look completely wrong. It looks like an unfinished product to me. And if you have a 15-inch MacBook Air, look, take no offense to that, but that's what it looked like to me, and it really put me off the MacBook. And I only would have figured that out by seeing it in an Apple shop in person and trying it out, lifting it up. Do I really want the extra kind of like inch of screen when you take into account bezels and all that sort of stuff? The answer was no, and I have to say I'm super happy with the 13-inch MacBook Air. Last but not least, and this is actually a mistake I've made even on the MacBook Air, believe it or not, and that is buying the wrong charger. So Apple give you the option of 2 different MagSafe chargers. You get either a 70-watt single, which only has one port, or you get the 35-watt dual charger. Now, I didn't even know it was a thing, but I just got in the box a 35-watt dual charger. And while it might not be, you know, it's a pretty good charger, don't get me wrong, it charges it fairly fast. And while that might not be a massive consideration, I know a lot of you are kind of power users and you may want a charger that can, you know, get that charge into your laptop as fast as possible. So if that is you, please make sure you tick the right one on the website, or if you're in store, tell them you want the single or you want the dual or whatever it may be. And I do know sometimes they don't have them in stock. So I was checking Apple's website. The 70-watt single was not available for like 2 to 3 days or something, or 2 to 3 weeks or whatever it was. Whereas the 35-watt dual was in stock straight away. So they must fill their boxes with the 35-watt dual. and that probably makes sense why I got it. So actually I have one more. So it's really 8. The last one, and look, it mightn't be a problem for everyone, but it's just picking the right color. Now, I love the color of the midnight finish on my laptop. However, it's a fingerprint magnet, and if that really annoys you and you don't want to be cleaning it 24/7, then don't get that finish. Get one of the other silvers. I have the other type of silver on my MacBook Pro for work, and you don't even notice the fingerprints on it, which is fantastic. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.